live. So for those of you watching, this is a test. We're getting the ball rolling. We want to make sure that we're actually broadcasting.
Getting everything in position.
So my monitor computer here.
Yes, we will actually be starting in about 17 minutes or so.
Yeah,
but
this is our technical run through.
yeah.
Okay, it says we're
Sort of bore you all with it.
Jim says, I think amazing isn't grand enough to describe the live experience of the class.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's really nice. Okay, let me just do a quick chat in the chat room. Can anyone see video yet? Because I'm not seeing it, so I'm just going to double check that I put the embed code in properly.
And someone's asked how long it's going to last too, Chris.
90 minutes. We're going to go for 90 minutes.
Aiming
So
for
start at 2 o'clock on the nose. And you know what? I'm going to just check in another browser window here, because for some reason I'm not seeing it on my Chromebook. I want to make sure the embed code is properly in there. Yeah, that's bizarre. Okay, so I guess no one can hear us yet anyway. So
okay.
Oh, because I know why. I know why.
Why?
It has to be a secure feed.
Excuse me. Houston, we have no problems.
Because Lead Pages does not like unsecure HTTP links.
Gotcha.
So if that works, that will be very good, assuming Google cooperates. If it doesn't, I'm going to have to give everyone a new link and hope that they are able to make it work. Okay. Let's go and refresh that page. If anyone can see us, we are just testing right now.
That's the best.
Yes.
Yes.
Finally. Okay. I'm going to tell people to refresh in the chat room.
Oh, and it's the right way around, this one.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, everybody. All right. You know what you sound like right there? I won't tell you. I'm going to just, there we go. I've got to back up. Okay, now let's go back to our webinar page with our chat room. Okay, so we've got some people saying they have audio and video. All right, folks, I'm just letting you know in the chat room that if you hear me, then you don't have a problem. You can see me and hear Mike and I. I'm looking at the screen again.
Yep, let's look up here.
So for those of you who can see us, I'm just mentioning in the chat room for anyone who is just coming online now, they might need to refresh their browser because I have the code to get the video to show up in I won't get into all the technical mumbo jumbo, but there was a little letter missing and I needed to fix it. It's fixed now, so if you can see me and hear me, then wonderful. We're just about ready to go. I want to make sure everyone, thank you, Jim. We look handsome, apparently. I want to make sure everybody knows that they need to refresh. Refreshing seems to work great. Okay, I'm going to post that again in the chat room in a couple of minutes. So for those of you who are here, thanks for helping us test it out. We are going to be live in 14 minutes. I am going to do a little test here now to make sure I can get our presentation on. So let's start with a fancy slide like that one. So I'm going to go and I'm going to start sharing screen share, which is, bear with us, folks, here as we get the ball rolling here. Close that. There we go. That's what I want to be sharing. Aha, there it is. All righty. Let's see if that works. So right now, everybody should be seeing a slide that says, okay. We're about a minute behind too. Okay, Eric's refreshed. Jim is refreshed. Henry needs to refresh, so let me just type that. Hopefully for those of you guys who are in the chat room, you can actually just see these refresh suggestions and it'll work. Okay, I'm going to mute my microphone for the next few minutes, just as Mike and I do some final prep work here. So stay tuned. We're well over 100 people online already. And we'll be back in a few minutes, folks. So just stay tight. I'm going to leave this screen up.
Did you do your microphone?
Haven't muted it yet. I'm still working on figuring out how to do that because it's the controls usually up here.
Isn't it there?
You're all getting you're getting to listen to. Oh, there it is. You're getting to listen to Mike and I figure all this stuff out. Here we go. Okay, we're ready to mute. All right, folks, we're back on, and we have a few minutes still to go before the 2 o'clock start time. Can everybody just let me know in the chat room that they can see the slide? You should see a slide that says we go live on Thursday. There wasn't any audio, of course, for a moment because I muted it, as I said.
And
Perfect.
If you can't hear us, don't bother answering.
Christopher is saying, picture, no audio. I heard something about muting. Yeah, of course, that's it. Not supposed to be sound right now. Thank you, Jim. Yes, absolutely true. And I think there's a little bit of a delay between you guys chatting, which we see pretty much instantly, and our video feed, which is going through Google servers, which might be about a minute behind. Folks, we're back. Whoa. Got to turn my own computer speakers down here. Jessica's in Chrome, should not be a problem. Just let her know that. Okay, and I'm making a lot of typos. You guys can probably hear me typing furiously, just trying to answer people's questions.
I was amazed at how quickly you're typing.
Yes, well, you know that grade 9 typing class that I took way too many years ago. Yeah, back when they didn't even have computers, really. But that was just a fantastic skill to learn.
Yeah.
I recommend everybody learn how to type quickly. It's great. I can hear you and see the slide. Thanks, Harry. That's awesome. And Kevin and Ryan is online. Let us know where you guys are from. All righty from Jessica. I assume that's working now, Jess. Is that good? I hope everything is working. We're just going to chit chat here for a few minutes, everybody, before we get going. So let us know where you're from. Let us know how you found out about this. I'm sure there's going to be a mix of people who found out through Facebook because we had some ads running there, people on our mailing list, people who are already in our online academy, and of course, people who have taken our live Architecture of Hypnosis class, right, Mike?
Correct. Like we got Jim, the wild Norwegian storm writing hypnotist, right now
with the awesome music. I love his Stevie Ray Vaughan music. So, Jim, you should post your SoundCloud links here for everyone, just for the fun of it.
That's right.
So, Mike had almost a little bit of car trouble on the way over.
It was a nightmare, guys. And just before we go on, I might as well mention this. I had an event, a hypnosis show at the Marriott Hotel last night in this resort area north of Toronto, and got up this morning preparing to come rushing back to Hypnotic Central East, really not Central East, but you know what I mean, which is the studio here at Chris's place. And I found out I had a low tire on my car, really low.
And of course, when you told me, I thought you were pulling my leg.
Well, I have a compressor with me, but it wouldn't work. It wouldn't attach to the valve stem. So instead of putting air in, it was actually letting more out. I was forced to drive on it until I could find a gas station that was open. But we have survived. I got here an hour early, and all is go. Thank God for that. Awesome.
And we have Kevin in Toronto. We have Kevin. How come you're saying you're in Toronto and Scugog? I sense a conflict here, although I suppose they're not that far apart. We're actually in Scugog ourselves.
We are.
Matt in Orange County, California. I recognize the name, Matt. I think we've probably emailed before. Wendy in London. Kathleen in California. All okay in the UK from Wendy. Awesome. Adrian, oh my God. Yeah, online from Australia. I think it's
nice.
It's 4 a.m. there for you. I think you mentioned, Adrian.
Bro, that is dedication to the cause.
Adrian with 2 N's and an E.
So, yes. Young lady, that is dedication to the cause.
Just to correct you there. Mike's not looking at the chat, in case you guys are wondering. I am the one with the laptop in my hands here. So,
if I can just get him to remember to look at the camera.
Yeah, that's my
Captain Technology.
I have this bad habit. As you guys will soon find out, I tend to look at the computer screen instead of at the camera when I'm talking to you. So, at least I'm not looking at the microphone today. That's what I was doing last time.
So I'll write you a Ritalin prescription.
Absolutely hilarious.
Can we say brand names?
Sure. I don't see why not. We have Suzanne in the global epicenter.
Excellent.
Hypnosis. North Utah, England, Ottawa, where I grew up. I spent a lot of time in Ottawa. Saw it on Facebook. Texas, where we have several live students who have come from Texas. Facebook email notice, New York, Texas, email from Chris, of course. Yeah. Great metaphor. Yeah. Toronto, Brazil, south of Brazil. Fantastic.
And we'll be going live in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, we're letting everybody. We did say we would start promptly, and we will. So we're not just wasting time here for any other reason that we started early, just to get all the technical glitches out of the way. Holland, Florida. This is so awesome. So awesome to have such a global reach. It's amazing
tool, yeah.
I mean, if we were doing this 1 generation ago,
we'd be doing it all by mail.
Yeah, imagine. Yeah, you're like sending out your little mail adverts, and
well, then I'll be meeting by mail as well.
Yeah, that's true. You would not be able to do the online stuff.
Postcard from Jim.
Oh, we got the and we have the first person here saying from the society. You heard about this from the society. In case anyone's wondering what that is, that's Neil Strauss's organization, masterminding organization.
Just amazing stuff.
And Mike, you have taught for them twice, I believe.
I have in both Hollywood and in Whistler, BC.
And it's really cool because
amazing group.
You taught them the agree and repeat strategy, which we'll get into in a moment because we have a free gift for you folks on this webinar. So you'll learn this. And they called it Mandeling someone, which is really
talked about a guy who saved about $10,000 by Mandeling different hotels and airlines. They posted it all online. It's just fantastic.
Yeah. Once you learn how to communicate, you'll never go back.
Just wonder why he dropped to a whisper there.
I don't know. Just felt like doing it somehow. Like horror movie.
And let me get my iPhone 5.
1 minute to go. 1 minute to go. You're going to grab your obsolete iPhone 5.
159.
I can say that to him now because, of course, I was on
of course
the
he
obsolete.
Has the 6.
I was on the obsolete hardware a year ago, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, whenever you bought that.
Anyone who drives a Tesla can call everybody obsolete, as far as I'm concerned. Although there's a new one that he doesn't have that parks itself, and it's stressing him that he doesn't.
Quite upset about the fact that
that's the one I'm going to get.
I know you will.
We are coming up to 159 and change.
All right,
here
and we are going to hit the live button. So not
until the iPhone says it's 2 o'clock.
Yes, of course, network time, right?
Right.
Okay.
Universal
Steve from Missouri, northeast of Scotland. We have Brian. We have. I am in Germany, but from Romania. We have Anka. We have Jewel, Ariel in Toronto.
2 o'clock. We are live.
There we go. We're ready to go. Okay, folks, Ancaster, Ontario, Cincinnati, North Pole, Alaska. Okay, nice one.
Hit the button.
We are, well, there is no button to hit. We're live.
Oh, okay.
We're literally,
you're on the screen.
But that's fine.
We go live.
Yeah, let's advance the slide
at least. Do that.
Shall we? Shall we advance the slide? Let's see. Welcome. There's your welcome slide. We have begun. And welcome, everybody. Thanks. How many times am I going to say welcome?
I don't know. Probably too many.
All right, we are really pleased to have you all here. So,
but it's saying on the thing we're about to get started.
We are getting started. I could change the text, but I won't. No. So how about I move to the agenda slide?
Let's do that.
Boom. And then I'm going to confirm that this is actually working on the live feed. Yeah, I want to make sure that we're actually working. We go live. Okay. Bear with me, folks, while I absolutely verify that you can see the slide changes, because if you can't see the slide changes,
there we go.
There we go. It's working.
We're onto the welcome slide, but we're not onto the agenda slide.
In case you're wondering why there's this like really large delay, it's because it lags about maybe not quite a minute. But anyway, now we know that it's working. We can.
And now you know there's a huge delay with this. You're going to have to accommodate for it, because if you're talking about things on the screen and we're discussing them and they can't see them.
Oh no, they will see it. It's that we're talking about it 1 minute after I transition. We're still waiting for the feed. It's like one cycle of feedback, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go.
Otherwise, you could extend that argument out into infinity, like when you look into a bunch of mirrors.
Thank you, Ken.
All right, Ken's Weapon Stories over. Welcome. So here's what's going to happen today. I just want to pre-frame. This is not our first webinar. We do webinars like this every month, but this is the first time doing one for an audience of this size using Google Hangouts. We do this every single month as part of the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. We do it in a different area. We do it in a members area, which I have lots of experience doing every month. So this is the first time where we're hosting it outside for the public to get everyone else here acquainted with what Mike teaches in terms of hypnotic communication. So that's why we started 15 minutes early and we did a lot of chit chat to make sure everything was working flawlessly. The intro, really quick, I'm going to introduce Mike Mandel. Then we're going to jump straight into the content. Mike's got lots of stuff to teach you, and I'll be here to ask questions to make sure we pull out all the details. I will also be manning the chat room, so you'll see me in here. Ask questions at any point, but I won't be hitting up the questions until the end of the presentation. So we're going to go through all the material because there is quite a bit. Then we're going to do Q&A. And of course, I promise that we have something special for you, which we're going to get to momentarily. So why don't we then move on, and I'll start introducing you, Mike.
All right.
All right. So I want to introduce to you Mike Mandel, who is a 6-time award-winning hypnotist for, of course, all the various stage shows you've done over your career. I love this slide that's coming up here. So
this is just horrific.
So now we have, this is just for the fun of building the intro. This first picture on the left is Mike. How
That
old
was
would you say?
1970s, and I cannot. I'm in my early 20s. I cannot tell what's worse, the hair or the sweater.
The sweater's horrible.
The sweaters. I mean, I've obviously chosen that, Chris, before going on stage, looked in a mirror and gone,
that's
looks,
okay. I
looks
look
okay
great.
to me.
Yeah, it looks okay to you.
And
yeah.
I progressed.
I know. So there you have. Now Mike has now about 50 years of doing actual hypnosis.
And
so
40 years full time.
Right. Now I'll let you tell your story in a moment. Yeah, 40 years full time because you started doing it around the age of 12, and then you went professional as a stage hypnotist around the
age 21.
Yeah, early 20s. So here we are. Second picture is just developing in the career, the swinging pocket watch,
Yeah, in the back. Of course, you got to have that, right?
Yeah, every hypnotist has to do that. Or imagine rays casting out of their hands, which we cannot stand.
Yes.
And the spiral. And then we, of course, graduate to, just a few months ago.
Right. And my concern, Chris, was that anybody would think this is Photoshop. This isn't.
That
this
last
photograph
shot
was taken September 4th of this year, so just last month. This is at Western University. You're looking at over 6,000 people in my audience. And I told them that we were going to tweet it, so they all. Yeah.
It's on your Twitter feed.
And that's actually my 40th year in a row performing at U Western. So kids who saw me back then are almost 60 now.
Did you just want to introduce yourself? Would that be easier?
Well, I just want to explain about the picture.
All right. No, I'm just teasing you. All right. We have fun here, of course. So Mike, of course, has vast experience, which he'll get into with not only stage hypnosis. I wanted to make that clear. Obviously, on this slide here, we're showing a lot of stage hypnosis experience.
Which was the start.
Which is the start. Mike has progressed, of course, through many, many decades through forensic hypnosis, helped with lots of police investigations. He's done lots of lecturing at police colleges. In fact, he's created therapeutic modalities like mindscaping, art gallery, lensing, and all kinds of other stuff, which we can talk about. It's progressed because we got to get to the content. There's so much of it. Neil Strauss, New York Times best-selling author, referred to Mike as hands down the greatest speaker, presenter, and educator on hypnosis and NLP I've seen, and that was cool. So those of you who are in Neil's society and have seen Mike present for you, then you of course know that that's the case. So let's get on with Mike. So there's a larger picture of this picture you took and tweeted from the stage. 40 years in a row doing stage hypnosis. So hopefully that's all of you out there just saying, yes, bring them on, bring them on. What are we going to show you? So without further delay, Mike, let's get on to your story. And
the beginning of it all. Yeah.
Let's talk about this.
Well, I came to Canada from England as a kid, and I was a very small kid. I mean, small for my age. It took me quite a while before I reached my 5'10" that I am now, 178 centimeters. And as a kid with the extreme bullying, it caused me to develop a lot of sarcasm, and I would manage to verbally put kids down instead of fighting back. And of course, that's also what led to me becoming a martial arts freak as well, with all the bullying. But I developed these verbal skills, and I was always fascinated as a kid with things like mentalism and stuff like that, which was when I began working with Hellstromism, where somebody would hide an object and I would have them focus on where it was, and by touching their skin and walking with them, I could sense their micro muscle movements even as a kid and find out where they'd hidden this thing. So all of the mind stuff was happening constantly. And what really was the breakthrough for me was age 12. So this is like 1965. I was working with, doing my homework and everything. I was always getting away from the homework and watching TV. Now, being from England, back in those days, there were only 2 TV stations. There was BBC, there was ITV. There was no BBC Two or BBC Canada or anything like that. And so I was fascinated by North American television. And my dad said, "You've got to work harder. You're not studying." He said, "I'm going to get you some more books." I said, "Okay." So he took me to a bookstore and said, any book I wanted, I could have, just to get me reading more and away from the boob tube. And the one I saw was by Walter Gibson called The Key to Hypnotism. And it said, hypnotize anyone instantly. It's like, wow. And so I began studying, devouring this book. And I thought, I've got to hypnotize someone to see if I can make this work.
Right. Now I'm going to bring the picture back up.
So I chose a method which was for difficult subjects, right? And the person I picked to work this on, well, I had 2 neighbors next door, Wayne Gibbs, who you see in the picture here, and his brother Max.
Now, of course, Wayne was much younger at the
Wayne
time.
was 10. I think Max was 9. So the weird thing about it was I went over and said, can I put you guys in hypnotic trance? And they're little kids. They don't know what I'm talking about. So I go, sure. So I got him into trance. Max just kept laughing. It didn't work. But Wayne went into such a powerful hypnotic state, even at the hands of a 12-year-old hypnotist, that I was able to cause his hand to become completely numb, insensate to pain, stick pins in his fingers, and bleeding was even reduced, and he didn't feel it. And I always say his mom thought it was way less funny and interesting than I did.
Of course.
And I was forced to stop. And I lost track of him about a year later. And so we were little kids. That started me. And then many, many years later, I recontacted Wayne. That's him in the picture.
Right here.
In his 50s. And he said, I remember you used to hypnotize me and stick pins in my fingers. And I said, yes. He
That's
said,
right.
well, what are you doing these days? I said, funny you should ask. So Wayne was actually patient zero. He was the very first person. And when I was working in a theater in Prince Edward County, I told the story and got him to stand up, said, Wayne is here tonight. Everybody went nuts. You think he was a rock star or something.
That's amazing.
So that was the start for me. It absolutely fascinated me and convinced me that there was something to this hypnosis thing, because a little kid who didn't feel pins stuck in his fingertips, which are extremely sensitive, was an amazing thing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, yeah.
Nice
so now
yes.
let's get to the last bullet, because this is important. So you got into stage hypnosis in 1975. Right. And at the beginning, although most of your stage shows went very well, and we will be transitioning obviously beyond the discussion of stage hypnosis, because that's not the point of this webinar. Right. And so let's get to the beginning of that next step. You didn't understand the structure.
Hypnosis has a structure. I didn't know this.
Okay, so I'll switch slides here.
I'd be working with people on stage. I had booking agents in Toronto who started getting me work, and I would hypnotize people at universities and colleges and high schools and so on. And then I didn't realize, since I was creating my own techniques on the fly, I didn't realize what was crucial to make it work and what was entirely window dressing.
Right.
And I had a show in Palmerston, Ontario, 1975, which was a freaking nightmare because I had 30 people and had their hands locked in front of them. And on the count of 3, your hands will not come apart. 1, 2, 3. And all 30 took them apart like, yeah, and just looked at me. And I say the rest of the evening was a horrible blank. Right. It's like, and I was devastated because I'd not yet figured out the fact that there is a structure to communication and there is a structure to hypnotic communication.
All right. So that brings us to you standing on the shoulders of giants. That's a phrase that you've used a lot. I really like it. Let's talk about that. Well, what does that mean?
No man or woman is better than their teachers for the most part. And I've been blessed with some of the greatest teachers in the world. When I did some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with Hickson Gracie, who was arguably the best of all time. Derek Balmer, my NLP trainer, NLP Canada, was a Cambridge linguist. Dr. John Grinder, of course, the co-founder of NLP. And my grade 6 teacher, Donald Thane, who taught us how to be curious and how to learn. And I began filling my brain with information on not just hypnosis, but on communication, subtle communication, how to change people's behavior without them even knowing you were doing it, or I was doing it in this case.
Fantastic. Okay, so obviously that then took you into a shift towards doing speaking, doing teaching, doing private practice.
Right, 1993.
Forensic hypnosis.
All of that, and graphology. 1993, I got certified as a graphoanalyst, and I began doing my presentations we call brain software. So I'd go into corporations and universities and so on and teach communication skills, and they ate it up. You know, Microsoft and Virginia Department of Criminal Justice and Department of Defense said, we need this stuff. And it's stuff I've spent my life learning because my job does not take a lot of my time. So I'm able to pour hours and hours into learning new things. So this became extremely popular. Brain software, running software in your brain, communicating much more effectively, much more powerfully. And the corporations and the government agencies just ate it up. And that's what I do now. I still lecture all the time and do 1-hour keynotes or half days, trainings, whatever it is.
Right. And of course, we do monthly webinars like this for our online students, which is really cool.
So let's get to some of that content.
Let's get into the content. And I said that I would announce what we have for you all at the beginning. Well, I didn't say when I would announce them, but this is the time to do it. So right before we get into all of the teaching, this is the pre-framing. I wanted to explain to you, or have Mike explain to you, his background, so you understand that he has vast experience, education, lots of humor. You just learn so much from this guy. But we have something cool for you. So over the last about 2 weeks, we took the brain software ebook, which is a free, actually, let's just shift over to the camera here so that people can see us for a moment.
All right.
So we took the, how do I turn this sucker off again? Screen share, there we go. All right, here we go.
We're back.
So we filmed. Mike's got this brain software ebook, and it's a PDF, and you can get it free on our website if you opt into our mailing list, and it's a download. And what we've decided to do is take it and break it down into, I don't know how many videos it even is because I haven't finished editing yet.
11 or 14 or something.
But it's well over 1 hour of video content that supplements the book. So it takes a lot of the key concepts in the book and it turns them into really interesting video series, bite-sized chunks, just like the kind of videos for those of you who are in the online academy that you're used to seeing from us. But we're going to give these ones to everyone on the webinar here. In fact, everyone who is going to watch the replay too. If I have your email address because you signed up, we will email you a link that you can go into a members area, sign up for free, and get access to this
once it's edited.
ebook series as a video. Give me about, I will say, 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, you feel free to ping me by email and bug me and say, hey, where's the ebook
Listen, guys,
series?
you'll love this stuff. It's the kind of thing I'm teaching today, but it's the stuff that corporations eat up because it works. I train salespeople across Canada, the US, police, how to calm down irate and crazy people, and therapists. And this is gold. It's brilliant stuff. So it's not mine. I've gathered it from numerous sources. Some of it is mine, original to me. I always give the sources, and you'll have a blast with this stuff. So make sure you get that ebook as a video format.
All right. Now I see in the chat room, there's a few people saying they're having problems. So thanks, Kevin. At least I know you can hear us. Just give me a quick shout out in the chat room. If you can hear us, I would like to see a bunch of people saying yes, so I know everything's still working properly. And now let's move on to the primary content here. So I'm going to go back to the screen share, which is right, where is it again? Right there. Okay. Continuing. So let's start with the very first thing we want you to understand, and that is you are already a hypnotist, except, Mike,
you just might not be a very good one yet.
So
what do I mean by that? It basically, hypnosis goes so far beyond you're getting sleepy, you're getting tired, this nonsensical stuff that is pretty well 100 years out of date. It still works, but there's better things. Anyone who is communicating with any other human being in any context is causing the person to elicit internal states that will change their behavior if managed properly. Words cause change. And we use words every day. If I describe a trip to my cottage and say that, you know, it was on Hikes Island, it was a rough river, we used to go across with this little 10 horsepower motor, and we'd often go just when the first snow was coming down before the river froze, and get into the cottage and chip the ice away from the lock and go inside and turn on the oil stove, and gradually the place would warm and you could smell the oil burning, and finally the place would heat up. We'd put on hot coffee, look out the window at the water. Now, I'm saying this to you, and because you understand the language, everybody who's listening is making a different internal representation of what this is. And none of them are the same, and none of them are my cottage. Even my internal representation is not my cottage. It's a map of what I recall.
Right.
So the words are causing this internal response, and every time we direct someone's attention internally and cause them to evaluate emotionally these different states they're going through, we are producing hypnosis.
So everyone here is already a hypnotist. You just might not be a very good one. And your primary tool is words and speaking. And of course, there's all kinds of other things that are involved too. But let's just keep it simple and say language is the primary tool that we all are talking about here today.
Yes.
And because you're using language every day, you could be using it effectively, you could be using it ineffectively, and it would be in your best interest to learn how to do it effectively. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
All right. So if everyone agrees with that, then let's continue on. So let's talk a little bit more about how we can use words to make change. Power language.
Okay, now power language is one of the key things I teach a lot. And the basic idea is there are certain ways of using language, both positively and negatively, that will impact other people. And this is extremely useful to know, even if you only have a few techniques, because they are powerful, hence the term power language, ways of changing people's states, ways of influencing them that will make your life better and make you more productive and able to deal with other people in stressful situations and so on. So most of the thing we deal with, Chris, is people get in stuck states. I run into this all the time. People get stuck in a particular state and can't break out of it. We've all run into people who are very, very negative or nitpicking or can always find the flaw in something, and they're stuck in a very specific state. Now, states, and I've never discussed this with you, Chris, but states are a very interesting thing. We now call them ego states because the idea is they are sub-personalities. So these are sub-personalities that you have, each one of which calls itself I. And one of your ego states is listening to me right now.
Right.
And if I say point to yourself, it will point to here. It is in what is called the executive, which is in the control center. Now, when someone's state changes and they get really whiny and sucky or something, that ego state has left, and a different ego state is now in the executive position.
Okay.
The weird thing about it is we're going in and out of them all the time. And if you recognize that you are in different states, different sub-personalities that all know about each other by and large, which is why we're not dissociative identity disorder, MPD. These states know about each other, which is what human beings are. We are a composite of these committees that function together. The key is, are you in the right state for whatever you are doing?
Which we will be getting to.
Which is what we'll be getting to, and how to make sure you're in the right state. If you're in a state that's really good for crocheting, and you're in that state while you're driving a car, you're probably going to roll it on the first turn. You need to be in a good driving state, which is alert and aware and having a big picture. So we will get into states and the power of state and how to switch those things very, very quickly.
Okay, so let's move to the next slide here. I'm just going to share the screen again. Okay, this is a really important slide, right? Present state and target state. Anyone in our academy or has taken live training knows this stuff. But for the vast majority of you who are, from the hundreds of people I can see online, not, then let's teach this material, because this is important, and this moves to power language, right?
Present state to target state. This is a very, very interesting phenomena, because it applies equally if you are in therapy or if just in life, because life and therapy are great models for each other. In your life, you may live in a certain neighborhood, which is your present state, a certain income, certain people in your life, and your target state or desired state might be living somewhere else, driving a different car, married to a different person, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. In order to get from your present state to your target state, we have to apply resources. And when we apply resources, everything shifts, because we actually move you from the present state to the target state. In reality, we continue to transform the present state until it becomes the target state.
Okay, let's make this tangible then. So as an example, present state and a typical problem, and you guys can throw out problems that you might imagine or that you actually have or that you know somebody who has in the chat room if you want. But a good one would be, I'm not happy with my job. I hate my job, or something like that.
So the present state is discontent in the job.
Right.
So what we have to do is initially discover what the target state is. And you'll see VAK under target state there.
Which means?
Which means the three primary representational systems: visual, which is your sight; auditory, which is your hearing; and kinesthetic, which is both emotions and physical touch. Now, those three primary representational systems are how you will determine what your target state is. In other words, how will you know when you have it? What will you see? What will you hear? And what will you feel?
Now, we should also back up for a moment and explain that this VAK, this internal representation stuff, this map that we access, this is the same thing that we talked about when Mike was telling you the story, but if he was to describe his cottage and the smell of the fireplace and the sound of the wood burning or whatever it is, you're making internal representations that are essentially a map of images, sounds, and feelings.
Yes, right. And I'm delivering it through words.
And by doing that, you are causing change in someone else's
state at that time. It might put them in a relaxed state, might put them in an anxious state, whatever it is.
And so you're also doing this to yourself. If you say to yourself, oh, I really hate my job. I wish I had a different job. I can't stand
right.
this.
So the present state could be hatred of your job, but it could easily be something therapeutic. It could be somebody who's phobic.
Right.
And their target state is happy. Instead of being terrified of sparrows, they want to be able to wave at sparrows out their window without freaking out.
Okay.
So the target state might be, how will you know you've got it? Well, I'll see sparrows and I'll hear my internal voice saying, oh, that's a cute little bird. And I'll feel good when I see them instead of freaked out.
Right.
So you have to have an evidence criteria of what your target state is to ensure that you know when you're going to hit it or when you have hit it.
Okay, I've moved back to the camera so you guys can see us now, but just keep that in your mind. Present state, target state.
And all the things in life that you'll want to do over and over again will be moving from your present state to your target state through the addition of resources. If you do not identify what the target state is, you are essentially firing a gun in the dark at random, because the target state is a target. You have to aim at it and you have to consistently see, have I developed the flexibility of behavior to keep moving towards it, and am I able to check to see if it's working or not?
Okay, so now let's get into some of the power language, some of the actual words that we need to either start using or stop using, because we're going to move into empowering questions next. There's a little teaser for you.
And we're still in power
So
language
let's
here.
stick to power language. let's give people
night.
some really high quality stuff they can use, because I promised everybody here they're going to walk away with new tools.
Right off the bat. This one can absolutely change your life. Do not use the word why when you are attempting to solve a problem, because all it will do is focus attention on the present state and amplify it. In other words, why does nothing whatever to move you from the present state to the target state.
It keeps you stuck. It's an anchor.
It enhances the being stuck. So, and you can test this. Anybody listening can test this. If you know somebody who's always irritable and annoyed, go up, smile sweetly, and say, "Why are you irritable and annoyed all the time?" And watch what happens. You'll fire that state immediately.
Right.
You'll draw the person's attention to it, and that irritable, angry, anxious, whatever, stressed out state will occupy the executive position. It'll be called in, and by you drawing attention to it, it'll examine itself in all its components and will be amplified and made much worse.
Right. The quality of the questions you ask yourself
is going to determine the quality of the answer. So the first thing you're going to do is never use the word why when you're attempting to solve a problem.
So instead of why are you so annoyed all the time?
Yeah, why am I depressed?
Now, if you're in a position of helping people for a living, whether you're a therapist or a counselor or a social worker or a coach, what is a better alternative, Mike?
Well, you want to put things into process. You want to change why questions into how questions, because how questions move you forward. It's way less important to ask random questions. Let me turn that around. It is way better to focus on process than to take questions at random and hope you hit your target. For example, you run into people who will say, "Why am I so stupid all the time?" Well, guess what? Your brain is programmed through your reticular activating system. It will bring into being whatever you tend to focus on. It will put all of its attention there unconsciously, which is the bulk of your mind. And if you ask questions like, "Why am I so stupid?" your brain will generate answers.
Yeah.
Well, your parents are stupid. You know, there's a genetic basis for this.
You hang around with stupid people.
So there's a sociological aspect. You don't eat right. You don't exercise.
You don't do anything to educate yourself.
Yeah. So the person comes out of it going, "I am stupid." Excuse me. So instead of "why am I so stupid all the time?" a better question is, "How can I get smarter?"
Which is a good empowering question. And we're going to get there in a moment.
Or better, a question that I've been asking myself almost every day for 20 odd years: how can I get smarter today than yesterday? And have an absolute blast doing it. Let my brain generate those answers. Get smarter and find fun ways to do it. So how questions will move you forward. Why questions will keep you stuck. Never to say to somebody, "Why are you depressed?" You see, why did this go wrong is way less important than how can we fix it right away.
Exactly.
So realize when you're dealing with someone who's distressed, if they're angry, if they're anxious, whatever it is, stay away from the why questions. And you can ask them the magic question, of course, which is the most powerful of all. Guys, if you get nothing else from this little webinar but this will change your life if you apply it. Ask the magic question, which is, what do you want?
Right.
And what we see, hear, and feel when you got it. Asking what do you want identifies the target state. If you don't identify it, remember you're firing in the dark. Years ago, I helped with a community that was hit by a suicide epidemic among the kids, a Native community. And they were asking them, the social workers, the psychologists were asking them, "Why are the kids killing themselves? Why are you kids depressed? Why? I said, "There's half your problem." As soon as they change the question to, "What do you want?" "Well, we want this, and this." They start negotiating ways to put some pieces in place, breakout programs for the kids. The suicide rate mysteriously disappears and drops back to effectively zero.
Right.
When you are stuck, when any human being is stuck that you're dealing with in your workplace, in your business, in your family, somebody has lost track of the target state. So ask, "Now, wait a minute, none of this, why are we upset? Why are we screaming at each other?
What do we want?
What do we want?" And by identifying the target state, you now have a target that your brain will automatically begin moving towards.
Right. So let me just make this point at this point in the make a point at this point in the webinar. That's dual use of the word point in totally different ways, not appropriate. Okay, forgetting all that, back to the topic. Close your door, take out your notepad if you haven't already. Make sure that you're not going to get interrupted, because this is just the beginning. You're going to get a lot more nuggets, but write that down. Write down every time that you catch yourself asking a present state question, a stuck state question. to change it into a process-based question.
Yes.
So instead of why, you can ask what, how,
or what
when,
can we do, or what will we do,
or with whom,
or what do we want, anything to break you out of the stuck state.
Anything that gets you moving, right, which I've, of course, learned from this guy. And I'll tell you that as a parent, you're going to see this with kids all the time. You're going to see parents who are going, why are my kids so misbehaved? Why are my kids whining so much? Why are they always late for school in the morning? Why don't they get out of bed? Why don't
Listen, guys, this man knows more about parenting
I learned
than
it from
anybody
him.
I've met. No, but he's applied it to parenting.
I've applied this stuff to parenting because I learned it. It's a framework that applies to any type of relationship, any type of situation. This stuff really works. So
back on what you said on that. We have a family friend who was having a lot of problems with one of his kids, and then later both of them. And I said, you're always asking him why. Why did you do that? Why did you do that?
Oh, and the answer was,
the answer, the father was, well, we're very big on why in this family. I said, and look what it's getting you.
Yeah. And how does that serve you?
How does that serve you?
Next. All right. I want to make sure everybody's still getting a good result here. Video showing through okay. I know a few people are having problems, but are we giving you the kind of material that you're looking for? Is everything going well so far? Just let us know if this is what you're looking for. I'm aware, by the way, I'm looking at the camera and the focus is kind of coming in and out a bit. Actually, if you can move your chair back like just a couple inches, I have a feeling it's because we're both at different distances.
The temptation to put my
chair
on your phone.
There's me being the problem solver. Let's see if that solves it. But let's move on. I want to get some feedback from you all to make sure we're in the right
and let's
track
keep going
here.
to the power
Let's
language.
go. We've got more. So what's next?
Okay,
we have.
Here's another word I want to cover, Chris. Try. We do
try. Let's do try. Yeah.
Try is a really toxic word. I say it's actually the Toronto Maple Leafs word, the hockey team, because they've been trying to win the Stanley Cup since about 1967 or something. Try implies failure. Really, really be aware of this dangerous toxic word, because when someone says they'll try, the implication is that they're going to fail.
Right.
What do we say? If at first you don't succeed,
try again.
Fail, but try, but fail. If someone says to you, oh, my son was at that gymnastics meet. Oh, how did it go? Oh, Skipper's such a little trooper. He really tried his best. He failed, didn't he? Yeah, you could say that, but you know, he really tried and failed.
I think if a parent said that to me, I'd want to punch them.
Well, of course you would.
Yeah.
But we're making a point here.
So think about it, folks. If you're imagining past interactions with people, I want you to do that right now. Think about a time somebody told you they would try to help you, or they'll try to show up somewhere, or they'll try to be there on time, or whatever.
Oh, it's terrible.
What happens?
I saw this at a martial arts school. They had it on the wall, and they said, it doesn't matter whether you win or lose. All that matters is that you try. What? I don't want to live my life freaking losing because I'm trying all the time. So when someone says, I'll try, here's the antidote to it. This is one of the negative power language things. So you got to move on Saturday, and you've got a friend who's got a truck, and you've been trying to get a mover and you can't. And you say, hey, Fred, can you come around that truck and help me move? Oh, Saturday morning. Hey, well, I'm going to be kind of busy. I'll try. Now, is he going to show up? No, he's not. No. We know he's not going to show, but we still thank him and hope he will. And when he doesn't show, we move and in by ourselves and kill ourselves trying to move pianos alone and all this. We see him on Monday.
He can say,
I tried.
I tried.
I tried to make it. Thanks, Fred. Shake his hand warmly, eyes welling up with tears of gratitude. Thank you that you tried. It's a terrible word. If someone says, I'll try, the antidote is this. You don't have to be mean or nasty. Just say, is that a yes or a no?
Right.
And they'll go, well, it's probably a no. Okay, that's cool. I would rather get a no from someone than I'll try, because if I get a no, I can keep asking other people till somebody says yes.
So anybody who is a therapist, counselor, et cetera, any of those kinds of roles, psychiatrists, psychologists, doctors,
stay away from try.
Here's the thing: when you're dealing with a subject, a patient, a client, whatever, and they come to you and they say, well, you know, I've been really trying to whatever X. What do we say instead?
Yeah, don't try, do it.
Yeah.
I mean, Yoda stole this from NLP, I'm sure.
Right.
He did not say it first. But this is a very, very common thing. If you avoid the whole aspect of trying and just make things happen, do it. And consistently and persistently do what you're doing until you get the result you want.
And if you're a hypnotist and your client comes in and in the pre-talk, you're hearing a lot of, oh, I'm trying to accomplish this and I'm trying that. Of course, you're going to use suggestion in the hypnosis session to eliminate that word and just get them moving and actually doing.
Good point, Chris. And on that same note, let's look at the other side of it very briefly. I know of one hypnotist who had a subject who came in and she said, well, you know, it's going to be difficult. The subject said, I think it's going to be difficult because no one's been able to hypnotize me. And here's what the hypnosis trainer said. just do your best. Just try to go into a nice little trance. Try.
Right.
So the implication is, even though it's not going to work,
You're going to fail.
So
yeah.
stay away from it. It's a toxic.
And yeah, exactly. So you're never going to want to say to your client, let's try this new induction.
Yeah, we'll try to fix it today.
Let's try this solution. No, let's just do it.
Let's just do it. Another one, Chris, is people will say, let's see if we can't, instead of let's see if we can.
Oh, yes.
Well, let's see if we can't get it done. And I would say, well, why don't we see if we can get it done instead? Oh, yeah. It's this stuff in our language. We do what we're talking about, and we talk about what we're doing. It's a human
absolutely.
thing.
In fact, we were at the restaurant the other day after we recorded some videos, and the waitress said something about trying. I can't remember what the context was.
Oh, yeah.
And we both jumped on it and said, well, don't try, just do it, and you'll find that the results are much better.
Try to eat more in a more healthy manner.
Right. I'm trying to cut the grains and the wheat out of my diet. Well, that's the problem.
Just do
You're
it.
trying. Just do it, right?
Next, what's our next
Okay,
word?
so what else do you want to focus on? We talked about why, try. You want to talk about don't and can't and should?
Maybe we won't go to don't. That's more complex, but they get that in the brain software notes
Right.
anyway. Can't is a really interesting word. Do you know now, it's well understood that if you say you can't do something and consistently say you can't do something, your brain takes it as self-hypnosis, a self-fulfilling suggestion to ensure that you are unable to do this. So if you have to learn another language, some lunatic that you work with determines you've got to learn a new language to keep your job. Well, first of all, hope it's Indonesian, because it's the easiest language in the world to learn without.
I've heard that.
There's no plurals. You just say the word twice. And hope it's not Hungarian, which is the most difficult language for non-native speakers. That's why nobody speaks Hungarian badly, because nobody's learning it. It's just native speakers speak it. That's why everyone speaks it well. But Hungarian kids are brilliant because they can all speak Hungarian. Now, so someone says to you, oh, you've got to learn this new language to keep your job. And you go, oh, man, I was lousy at French in school or German or whatever it was. I can't learn another language. Well, your brain goes, okay, I guess you're not going to be needing Broca's Speech Center. Let's power this down. You'll find it really, really difficult, if not impossible, to learn that language. So what do you say instead of can't? Do you say, oh, I can speak Indonesian if you can't? No, of course not. Lying to yourself is still lying. Put it back in process. I'm learning Indonesian. I'm learning to ski. You don't want to put skis on for the first time of your life and go up to, Whistler, British Columbia, amazing ski hill, and pick the one with the most skulls and crossbones on the pamphlet because it's the most dangerous.
Right.
And the only other people on the hill are the staff who go out with files and sharpen all the rocks in the morning to make it even more scary. And you're there alone, and you need oxygen to get to the top of the mountain. It's so high, and multiple chairlifts and stuff. And you get up there and you get $10,000 worth of new equipment, and you're positive, and you say, I can ski. You'll discover you can die. Lying to yourself is still lying. So you're not going to say, I can
You need the resources.
Ski. Yeah, I am learning to ski. You're
Right.
putting it back in process. When you say, I am learning to ski, it doesn't matter how far along you are. Your brain will go, that's cool. I'll keep everything unlocked.
Right.
I'll keep you in a learning state instead of a I can't do it state.
Right. So in other words, this is not when we talk about target state, I like how you said it earlier. The target state is never actually going to happen. There is no destination. It's always moving forward, and you're focusing on that forward path. So you're talking about learning, the process of learning, as opposed to having already learned. You're not saying, I'm an amazing skier when you're just learning. You're saying, I'm learning to become an amazing skier.
If you want to be the president of the United States, then you're not going to walk around. You say, I'm becoming
I'm the president.
I'm the president of the United States, and they'll lock you up.
So focus on listening to the words that people are saying to you and helping them to change the words that they're using to be more productive.
Very nice gesture there, Chris.
There we go. Very nice gesture. Almost Italian.
What's the next one?
Okay, now I think we're done with the power language. I want to move into
let me throw in one more here. This is just a little toxic one. It's not a real bad one like try. The word is should.
Oh, yeah.
Watch out for should. Anytime you hear should, let a little ding go off in your head. In fact,
Mike, you should explain this.
Yeah, sure, Chris. So anytime you hear should, let a little ding, a little bell go off just to get your attention. Because when someone says you should do something or shouldn't do something, I heard an inane version of this a number of years ago. Our friend Paul from jiu-jitsu class,
yes.
His ex-wife, she said about another woman we knew, well, she's young, she should have a lot of kids.
Based on what?
Yeah, aren't there other things to take into consideration here, like their income and whether or not they're able to manage them, whatever? When someone says you should do something or you shouldn't do something,
red flag goes up.
Red flag goes up all over the place, buildings. They are arbitrarily imposing their model of the world and their belief structure on you. So you can respond like a 5-year-old, well, you should shut up.
Yeah.
Why do kids do that? Because it works.
You can
Don't accept should. It's arbitrary.
This is just to give you guys some context of where we are now. That's the power language segment. We wanted to give you a bunch of understanding of target state, present state, the words that are good and not so good to be using. Now we want to talk about how to actually implement some of this in the form of empowering questions.
Excellent.
And just because we actually have a slide on this, which only says empowering questions, so I'm only going to be putting it up momentarily.
Right.
Let's share that slide with you. There we go.
The slide says
the easiest way to move someone or yourself, I could put in here, forwards.
Now let me pre-frame this, and now that you've let them see that.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to us.
The camera. But here's a really cool thing, guys. If you apply this, you can absolutely change your life and the lives of other people. When I was doing full-time therapy, I charged people an awful lot of money to be able to get an hour of my time, as I charge corporations an insane amount, and they pay it because of what I'm delivering comes from some very good places, and it works. This is one of the techniques I used in therapy all the time. This alone would fix people many, many times. You can apply this to yourself. You can apply it to a client, a subject, a patient, whatever. Make sure you get this. Empowering questions focus on the target state rather than the stuck state, as we've just said, which is the present state.
And we're going to construct them with a nice process.
So empowering questions work like this. Your brain has the RAS. The RAS is the reticular activating system.
I'm going to put that in the chat room for those of you.
That's a good idea. The RAS is the lens, the reticule, let's say, of your brain that determines what you notice and what you don't notice. So if, for example, you're suddenly interested in bowling, guess what? Everywhere you go, you'll see stuff about bowling. You'll hear people talking about bowling. Now, this happened to me. I bought a 35 millimeter Minolta SLR camera back in the 80s before I found I'm entirely auditory. I have zero visual skill. All my pictures look like this. Hi, they're like snapshots. I gave the camera to my wife. But when I bought the camera, I was so excited. I came out of Henry's Cameras in Toronto with this in my hands in the box. Wow, I got a camera. And a bus went by, and on the side it said Canon. I went, wow. Then I look up here, Pentax, Ricoh, Nikon. Everywhere I looked, there were camera ads all of a sudden. I thought, who the heck just put all these up while I was in the store? Well, they were always there. But my reticular activating system was now presenting to my conscious awareness things tied in to my new interest. So your unconscious mind, the bulk of the trillion neurons inside your head, fewer if you survived the 1960s, your reticular activating system will work with your unconscious mind and present information for your conscious mind to notice.
Okay, so now people understand what this is.
Use empowering questions to get there.
Right.
So let's say you want to be more healthy. Now, what takes in health? It's going to take in proper eating, adequate sleep, exercise. It's going to take in even
good emotional
de-stressing, emotional health. So there's a whole lot of things under that. So or it could be you want to improve your workplace, whatever it is. You make a list of 3 to 5 empowering questions, but you design them. So I would work with a client. They'd spit out their first group of questions, and I would go over them with them to make sure that they are moving them from a present to a target state.
So you're starting with the magic question, what do you want?
What do you want?
So just to get back to that, what do you want? I want to be fit and healthy.
Lean.
I want my life to be all about wellness, let's say. Okay, so
excellent. So here's how you do it. So I'd say to the person, come up with a question that is going to focus your brain on that. And so the person might say something like, why am I not healthy?
Or how can I stop eating that? Or why do I eat so much junk food?
Yeah, why do I eat so much junk food? Well, we know from what I've already said, where is that going to focus all your attention? On the problem, which is the present state of eating all the junk food and being unhealthy. It will do nothing whatever to move the person in process. So how do they change it into a how question? So the person might come back with something like, well, not why do I eat so much junk food? Then they'll say something like, why don't I eat healthy food instead?
Right.
Well, that's still, who cares why you don't? You want to do it, not analyze why you don't do it. It's not very productive.
Right.
An example on this was a kid came in for therapy with her parents years ago, and she had a lot of problems, issues with one teacher. And this little kid, 12 years old, fixed everything with empowering questions. Here's her first one. Why do I make my teacher so mad? I said, okay, and here's why that's not so good. And we worked on it. And then she said, how can I not make my teacher mad? Okay,
A
now
little bit better.
better. How can we word that as
But
a
it's in
positive?
the negative.
In the negative. So
that's
how
a
can we word
key
it as a
point here. So
positive?
when let's make sure we hit on this for people. So if you hear a question like, how can I not, switch it around to say, how can I, whatever the opposite is.
Right, because people will pathologically tell you what they don't want rather than what they want.
And the list of things you don't want is?
It's infinite. You don't want to be a tin miner on Jupiter. You know, you don't want a cat to run through the door and claw your face. It's an infinite list. So people, I'll say to them in therapy, what do you want? Well, I don't want to be unhappy. Okay, well, I'll put you in a trance and make you terrified of carpets. How's that? Well, I don't want that either. Finally, they realize they have to focus on what they actually want. So now we get the empowering questions going. So this kid with the teacher issue eventually is saying,
keep talking, I'm grabbing
how
the pen.
can I make my teacher happy and like me more? Okay.
Yes.
So now that's way better. Now, once you get it to that point, we begin to build in presuppositions, and this is what makes it gold. Once you have your questions stated in a positive, moving forward, sensory based, what are you going to see, hear, and feel? Now you build in presuppositions. In other words, something that's part of it that's going to automatically happen. So it's, as I have a great day at school tomorrow, how can I make my teacher happy and like me more? Oh, it's already building in the
Presupposing that you'll have a wonderful
you're
day.
not going to dread it anymore. You're going to have
Right.
a great day. So find whatever you want to do. Listen, guys, everyone listening, hundreds of you, I challenge you to do this. I have absolutely, and this man is my witness, I have transformed my life with this stuff. I went from a $2 an hour telephone operator, literally back when $2,
It was probably inflation adjusted,
it was
something
inflation
like
adjusted.
$20
I
an
was
hour.
taking home about $90 a week. If I didn't live with my parents, I would have been, bankrupt, destitute, whatever. I created my entire career, created multiple streams of income by using this sort of thing. It absolutely works. So everybody watching, when you are done this webinar, here's your task. Make 3 to 5 empowering questions, and I'll tell you how you use them. Get your first run through. So then improve them. Make sure they're stated in the positive. Make sure they are process how questions and what will I do questions. Be careful. Don't say, what can I do to feel happier tonight? Well, your mind will say, well, your brain will answer these, by the way. Oh, you can do this, you can do this, and you can do this. Oh, okay. Doesn't mean you will do it. You're asking a hypothetical question. If you say, what can I do?
Right.
What will I do is a
right.
powerful question. Get 3 to 5 questions.
And then the presuppositions is important too.
Build in
Because
the
let's say your goal is to be happier and healthier, and you say, well, what can I do to be happier tonight? Well, I could drink a bottle of vodka. That'll make me feel great.
It's not going to work.
Well, is it what can I do that will make me happy tonight while increasing my overall health and wellness?
Beautiful
Something
question.
Like
What a
that. So now
question.
you put the presuppositions in there, right?
Right.
I learned that from you.
That's
so
good.
There we go.
So now somebody listen. So let's
Yeah.
suppose you've got 3 to 5 of these questions now. Working with a client or with yourself. Do it on yourself first to see how well this works. Then you make an appointment to reschedule with the client maybe 10 days later, and you follow up with them. You can do this on Skype. That's how I see clients around the world. And when they've got their 3 to 5 questions, they print them off their computer and they stick them on maybe their mirror or somewhere they are going to see them every single morning.
Home screen on your smartphone.
Yeah, some people laminate
background,
it.
yeah.
One NLP trainer told me to laminate it, wet it, and stick it on the wall of your shower.
Absolutely.
And it will fall after a while, which will get your attention again. Make sure you're still
Right.
doing it after
Write
a
it,
few days.
write it with your fingers in the steam so that it's always there now.
So when you got your 3 to 5, here's your task. Ask yourself the questions every single day as you're brushing your teeth, which is a great time because then you're overlapping what you're doing to something else, but you must answer them internally. You must let your unconscious mind generate answers, and it will. And this will tune your reticular activating system, and you will begin noticing things. You'll see books, you'll hear snippets of conversations, you'll see something on a TV show that will feed into your state and into your outcome, and things will start to change in your life. Guys, it absolutely works. Get the empowering questions.
It is
going.
brilliant. Just to come back to the should line, should is enforcing someone else's view on you. Brian, he says, stop shooting all over yourself. I love that
Very
line.
nice.
What a great line. Okay.
We will be using that.
I believe we have. Let's go to the next slide then,
Okay.
because so we've talked about empowering questions, and I think we've made it pretty crystal clear how to use them. Give me some feedback here in the chat room, folks. Let me know that this is still broadcasting well and that you're getting good value out of this content, because this is absolutely, to me, life-changing material, and I know it can be for you if you use it. So I hope you're paying attention, taking notes, and that it's making sense to you. Let's move on. The next one. This is our big statement. This one thing is essential so essential that all of the stuff
Something
we've
can't
just
be
taught
so
you.
essential, Chris.
So it is either essential or not.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you.
can't
It's like putting
modify
a
it.
modifier on the word
Please.
unique. It's so
Right.
unique. It's
stop.
this one thing is essential to affecting change in other people. And what we're about to tell you is that even with all the stuff that you've just learned, the power language, influencing other people without this, which is coming up on the next slide, dun, 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 you will have a much harder time if you don't have this. And that is
rapport. Rapport is the glue that holds relationships and trances together.
For hypnotists.
Rapport, yes, rapport is the English word for the French word, rapport. And even though we live in a bilingual country here, my English is much better than my French, so we'll be using the English word rapport. I often teach my students the 3 R's of hypnosis, the 3 R's of communication to my corporate clients. Rapport, rapport, rapport. And rapport is a sense of connectedness with another human being.
Let's go back
now,
to the
by
camera.
that, what I mean is, if I'm in rapport with someone, I have entered, hypothetically, their map, their model of the world, and I will seem to be similar to them. This is where a lot of professional hypnotists drop the ball, fail miserably, where a lot of presenters fail in front of audiences, where negotiation breaks down, where relationships fall apart because of lack of rapport, which is the glue that holds it together. Now, when we say rapport, what I mean is the person is in a psychodynamic loop with you. Their behavior is affecting your behavior, is affecting their behavior, and it goes on and on and on, which is a good thing. When you meet someone and you like them right away, something connects, something clicks, you will be in rapport with them. But the wonder of it is, as Bandler and Grinder and Milton Erickson and Professor Michael Brooks or Dr. Michael Brooks, all these people discovered, is you can teach this. You can create that connection with another human being intentionally, and the effect is mind-blowing.
I sense some demos coming up here, so I'm going to put the computer down. Because so chat room can be put on hold for a moment. Folks, pay attention here.
When people are in rapport, they will sit the same, they will move the same, they will gesture the same, they'll nod their head the same, they'll look at each other the same.
Wait, I have glasses on it. I'm just kidding. You don't need to go to that extent.
I'm just kidding too, because I'm in rapport with him.
Oh.
So you're going to, all of these things will mirror the other person's behavior at an unconscious level. About 2 miles from my house, there's some pretty wicked gang territory, and you can see them on the corner at night waiting to make drug deals and stuff, and they're all doing all this stuff in front and everything. And you can tell who the leader is. You see he's the one doing it, and the others are watching him, and then they're all doing it too. They're all in rapport with the leader. So when you build rapport with someone, you are sending a message to them that you are similar to them. We trust people similar to us because of our tribal instinct as human beings, our need to be involved in a community. And if we do not seem similar, we seem strange, weird, foreign, odd, alien, and different.
Right.
When we seem that, we're sending an unconscious threat message to the person. When you meet someone, you must begin to build rapport with them very, very quickly if you wish to change their state, change their behavior in any way. For example, you're in an office, you're a therapist, social worker, psychologist, doctor, whatever. Someone comes in. If the patient, subject, whatever, leans forward on the desk like this, you do not want to be leaning back in the, well, you're wrong kind of position here. You want to be leaning forward as well. If they look and establish eye contact, do exactly the same thing. Lean forward, establish eye contact with them. If someone picks up a cup to take a sip, you pause for a moment, pick up yours and take a sip. It's like a dance. You're not trying to move exactly with the person, and be careful what you take on. You want to get in a flow with them. It's not mimicry. You don't want to, if somebody has, a nervous twitch, that's not the first thing you go after. I would say, like Wizard of Oz, we represent the lollipop. It's not the first thing to mirror. But if you mirror their gestures,
your metaphor of dance is really
it's a dance. They take a sip, you take a sip. They nod their head, you nod your head. If someone gestures a certain way, gradually pick up their gesture. Even their words, say their exact words back to them. Now, obviously, you're not going to remember to do all this the first time through, but you learn to adopt it very quickly. We're going to give you the ultimate rapport secret in a minute that makes this real easy.
Right.
But here's how well this works. I was at, Michael C. Anthony, personal friend, best stage hypnotist on the planet, hands down, no question. He had me and my wife over with some friends at their house, the friend's house, for dinner one night. I was in the kitchen talking to this woman, Sylvia. And as she was talking, I got in rapport with her. And she'd nod, she'd talk, she'd shift her weight, and I did the same thing. And This just went on for a couple of minutes. We built this incredible rapport. And then when she was telling me something, there'd be a couple of moments she'd forget what she was saying. And she'd, and every time she said, I went like this, cleared my throat.
Right.
And so we're in the kitchen and I've got all a strong rapport. And every time we were, and I, like below the threshold of her conscious awareness. And after a couple of minutes, she was telling that they were in Florida on this trip. And I said, when did you go there? And she went, when the heck was that? She said, this is ridiculous. I can't remember when I went. And I said, well, what town were you in? And she went, Jack, where were we in Florida? And I had anchored that state in by being in strong rapport with her. It can be like magic. I read one author talk about sitting across the table from a friend of his, hadn't seen in a couple of years. They had beautiful dinner together. Every time she'd take a sip of wine, he'd pick up his cup of coffee, take a sip. She'd offer words. She'd say things like, I was there for 5 years. And he'd say the same words, 5 years. Just like that. He'd nod when she nodded. And then here's what happens that's miraculous. When you have rapport, when you've built this psychodynamic loop, you are now interacting with the person so much. If you do something, you are now leading and they will pace you. They will follow you. So you're running pace with them, hypothetically speaking, metaphorically speaking. And then when you do some gesture or whatever, they will unconsciously do it. So you'll know when you got rapport, you suddenly go like this and they're talking and they'll do the same thing. And it's the most amazing thing because when you have rapport with someone, they will listen to you. You are far more influential. And this is not to control people. It's to build bridges for long-term relationships.
Now, I want to point out, because I'm the type of person that will slip into rapport naturally with others. And so someone else will, scratch their forehead and I'll find myself scratching their forehead. Or more often,
your forehead.
Not someone, my own. More often it'll be somebody will lean back and then I will lean back. And I'll notice right after I do it, go, wow, I just followed. But here's the good news. If you do that, that means you're also a very good natural rapport builder with other people. So it works both ways. So
it's a very important thing. And it's powerful, powerful beyond belief. I'll give you another example, real world example quickly. A number of years ago, I had a printer I was selling. It was a dot matrix printer. That's how old this was. And I say not only dot matrix, but it burned coal. I mean, it was one of the first. And this thing was line at a time. This is super fast, Chris. It'll do 2 pages an hour.
Right.
So I had to unload this. I was buying a Hewlett-Packard LaserJet 4 that had just come out. The thing was enormous, but I wanted this thing. So I had to sell this other printer. I put an ad in the buy and sell in Toronto, and I cranked the price up $30 or something so he could negotiate me down and feel he was getting a deal. Standard negotiation technique. You don't always give people a deal. So the guy shows up to take a look at this printer. He's got his friend with him. His friend is the computer expert who's going to tell him whether or not to buy it. Now, who do I build rapport with? The man paying the money or the expert?
The authority figure.
Yes,
the guy who's going to make the decision.
The man who's making the decision. So they're down in my basement, in my rec room, and the printer's sitting there. We haven't even looked at it. The authority figure has a ham radio crest jacket on, VE3 DNR, 200 contacts at 25 megahertz, all these jamboree things for ham radio. And I know something about it because my dad was an advanced ham radio operator, and he taught radio in the war. So
and when
I
you say you know a little
I know enough
bit.
to fake it for a few seconds. So I said, ham radio. And he goes, yeah. He said, are you into amateur radio? I said, no, I'm not. And I could see him deflate. He went like this, Chris. He went, oh. Now, that's a mistake. I've lost rapport with him right away. It was just starting to develop. So I said, but I'm very interested in shortwave. What's happening with F1 and F2? Are we getting any skips through the ionosphere? I've now used up everything I know except the 11-year sunspot cycle, which I think I mentioned as well. He lights up like a Christmas tree. Oh, F2 is crap. We're getting no tropical bands anymore with the 11-year sunspot low. And he starts talking. So as he's talking, I'm consciously building rapport with him.
Aligning yourself with him.
My hands aligned with him. I'm nodding as he nods.
Speaking.
I'm offering his words. 11 years, wow. Offering the words back. He's moving foot to foot. He's getting more and more animated. And he's doing this repetitive gesture as he talks. So I pick up on the gesture and I'm nodding like, wow, 11 years. That's amazing. Really? And how long was that? Build this powerful rapport. We haven't even looked at the printer. And now things go into a lull. And his friend says, well, do I buy the printer or not? And I went like this. Are we still on camera?
Yep, go ahead.
I went like this. I said, it's a good printer at a fair price. No kidding. The guy went, it is a good printer at a fair price. Gestured exactly the same as me. The guy paid me the full price, didn't even try to negotiate the $30 down. And when they left with the printer, and I stood there with the cash in my hand, I remember going, a power is so great, it could only be used for good or evil. It's an amazing thing. Use it for good.
So
Build
key
bridges
point
with
here
people.
is in that story, just to make sure everyone gets the key point, the rapport came from you giving him an opportunity to talk about something that he
was talking about his favorite topic, ham radio. Now think about it.
While you're modeling
While
him,
I'm modeling him and mirroring him, if you're talking about your favorite subject of all time, you know, swimming,
you're in a great state.
You're in a very, very good state, has taken over the executive position. And that's the one I'm going to mirror.
Right.
So I'm getting him in that great state. It's hypnotic, guys. I'm changing his internal states by mirroring his behavior, offering it back to him. And that is the one I built the friendship with, and he paid the full price.
All right.
You want to give him the ultimate secret now?
Yeah, I think you got to do that real quick, and then
Okay.
we're actually running
We're going fast.
quickly into the time budget.
Oh,
I want to make sure we have
we'll
enough
go
time
for it.
for Q&A. So let's move on. Let's do the ultimate rapport
This you
secret.
got to know.
Then we're moving on to the power of state.
NLP co-founder John Grinder, who I consider a personal friend, wonderful man. I've had dinner with him a few times, and really, really interesting. The best teacher I've ever had. He taught me this. He said the ultimate shortcut to developing rapport with anyone is this one thing. And I still recommend you learn the matching, the mirroring, and so on.
Absolutely.
But this is incredible. In order to develop mind-blowing rapport with another person, here's all you have to do. Put yourself in a state where you perceive the other person as being the most fascinating, interesting human being you have ever met in your life. If it's your favorite rock star or artist or sports figure, imagine the person as that person if you have to. To get into that state, pretend the other person is awesome, fascinating, and fantastic, and then pretend you're not pretending anymore. Maintain that state. The rapport will go off the freaking scale.
Mm-hmm.
Do it. It works.
Now, what would happen if you not only build rapport with someone that way, but then you pay them a genuine compliment?
Perfect.
Where the compliment is genuine and
Not flattery,
leads them in a direction where you can label them in such a way that the label is a positive in terms of how you're then going to transcend that into an empowering question that will empower them to move where they want to go. So you've built rapport. You've done the pretended the most fascinating person trick from John Grinder, and then you ask them a good, you pay them a compliment, and then you ask them a great empowering question that takes advantage of the compliment and the label that has just assigned to the person.
Right. Anytime we label someone, they will tend to live up to that label. It's unfortunate for kids, their parents, you know, you're stupid, you're an idiot, you're a dummy, or you're a slow learner. Terrible stuff. Kids will take on that label. And it will actually become a subpart. It will become an ego state. And so instead of that, when you give someone a positive label, you know, you're the kind of person who's always so honest and fair. The person feels good when they hear that, and they will want to live up to that.
Okay.
So it's remarkable. Let's get on.
I flashed on the screen briefly, and then I went back to camera, the power of state. So if you remember, that was just there. We only have a couple of minutes to talk about this. We will definitely have to repeat these webinars at some point and do more stuff. But the power of state, let's talk about that, because that then helps us segue into why this all relates. Why? It's okay when you're explaining things, but
no, it isn't.
It's not good when you're sticking in a stuck state.
Remember I said, you have all of these subparts that are called ego states that take turns being in the executive position. Mm-hmm. They can be in for seconds. They can be in for a long time. We know this intuitively. We'll say, well, there's a part of me that just doesn't want to go.
Right.
You know, and we'll hear these internal conflicts like, oh, you know, I want to lose the weight, but I want to eat all this excess food as well. These are parts that are out of alignment with each other and are not congruent and aligned. When you are in a state, if you are in the perfect state for that task, everything changes. For example, when you're driving, you want to be in an extremely alert, powerful state. When you're watching a humorous movie, you don't want to be in a highly analytical state because the humor won't work on you. And you have to ensure that you put yourself in states that are useful for the purpose. We want to show you the Grinder method on how to change state really quickly. And this is really cool. Let's say you want to do any particular task. Your performance in that task, whether it's playing basketball, you know, crocheting, cleaning windows, painting a house, singing a song, whatever it is, your performance in that particular...
Which could be getting the most out of a therapy session if you're a therapist.
Anything, yes. Your performance in whatever the task or undertaking is will be governed by the state you are in at that time. So you have to ensure you're in a powerful state at the right time. A classic case of this was in the Olympics a number of years ago in China. Adam Van Couverden from Oakville, Ontario, was probably the best canoeist in the world. He was destined to take the gold, and he blew it. And we watched the race, and he just seemed stunned. He looked like he was in a trance. And everyone said, what happened? He said, I don't know. I don't know. He got into a state that was not the zone for him when he's canoeing, a state of doubt or disempowerment, whatever. So,
okay, so let's really quickly give people some tips on how to get themselves
so performance is based on your state. Your state is based on your physiology, your physical body at the time. So if you want to be in a powerful state, if you're presenting in front of an audience, stand like you're a powerful presenter. Put your shoulders back, breathe, be congruent, put your heart into what you're saying. You don't want to be like this and all kind of quiet and nervous and hope everything works out okay. No, that's a useless state for being a performer in front of an audience, let's say, unless it's a character you're playing who happens to be like that. You must get yourself in the right state.
So there we go.
This is put here. We've got at the bottom performance,
right at the bottom,
which is based on your state. Now, this is a hierarchy. So as soon as you improve the state, a better quality state, you will get better quality performance by default. If you change your physiology by moving, standing, relaxing exactly the way you would to perform that task in the right physiology, your state will improve and your performance will. But the real key to all of it that will change everything is shifting the breathing. We know this from yoga. We know it from Qigong. We know it from martial arts. We know it from all kinds of things. First of all, you have to breathe. And the average North American, at least, does not completely empty their lungs more than once every 10 to 14 days.
Right.
So you get stale bacteria and all of these things sitting in the bottom, stale air. You want to breathe deeply and powerfully. So when you have to change your state in a hurry, change your breathing first. That will have a ripple effect on your physiology, your state, your performance, and it will make all the difference in the world. So pause, relax your physiology, breathe deeply, take several deep breaths, and feel the empowerment of that state. That will switch it on automatically by shifting the breathing. Chris?
Yeah, so I want to also now point out, so how can you take advantage of this? So let's talk about both overt and covert ways to use this. So if you are dealing with someone and it's not a client, a therapist-client interaction, it's a friend or husband-wife or whatever, you're not going to say, well, honey, I want you to stand up tall and I want you to take this deep breath because I know better than you and exactly how you can change that state and affect your performance. You're going to match and mirror and model, and you're going to pace, and then you're going to lead, and you're going to lead them through physiology changes and breathing changes, correct?
Yes, and they'll follow you.
And if you're a therapist, hypnotist, whatever, and you're dealing with a client and you're establishing a compliance set, you're going to have them go through these changes as part of the compliance set before you do your session, and then they'll be in the right state to get the kind of performance, the changes that they want. This is the magic question right here. What do you want, right?
Yes, and you can change people's states by asking them certain questions. So if someone you know is having a panic attack, and they're, oh, what if, when they're freaking out? That's a panicking state that's in the executive. And what you do is you don't acknowledge it. Instead, if the person is an artist, start pointing at their paintings. You go, when did you paint that? Mm-hmm. Really congruently, really forward. When did you paint that picture? July. What did you call that? What color is that? Is that burnt umber? What is that color you used? And you are calling their artistic state into the executive, and the anxious one will be displaced.
And and of course their performance will change immediately because now they're talking about something that they are. Great pattern interrupt as well. Okay, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves in terms of some of that content, but now it's time to segue towards how this all relates to hypnosis. So let me just go back to the slides, which is...
I like the way you stretched that word out. That you did some word paint.
Yeah,
slides.
I need a magic button. Okay, so back to the slides. So everything we've covered so far involves tools that operate
below the level of conscious awareness.
Now, because it's below the level of conscious awareness, it is a hypnotic set of tools.
Right, and we really have an unfortunate situation here where Braid, who coined the term hypnosis, which meant nervous sleep, he wanted to switch it to monoideism, which was wrapping your brain around a single idea. But everybody picked up on hypnosis. And because of that, it now has this image.
That's the word that stuck.
Yeah, it's getting to the unconscious mind and the resources in the unconscious to make changes at a deep unconscious level. That's why it's hypnotic.
Okay, and we didn't want to say that it's hypnosis because that sounds very official and formal. Right. And reality is we're talking about process, like we just talked about target state versus present state and being process oriented. Well, hypnosis is a process. Well, it's more than that, but
it's a process that maintains a state.
So we're talking about hypnotic processes and using words and changing the way people
interact with each other. Yes,
exactly.
And
so,
in the directions you want. It
so
is
now,
an amplifier of human experience.
Thank you.
Second point.
That's the next point.
We mean anything that you are doing, swimming, teaching, having sex with your partner, whatever it is, hypnosis makes the experience more profound.
Right. And so hypnotic trance, the third bullet I put here, being the techie guy who makes the slide, is can happen accidentally because, as we said in the beginning, you're already a hypnotist. You just might not be very good at it. But it can also happen, if you're skilled, covertly through conversational hypnosis or overtly in the form of a therapist and client interaction.
Absolutely,
right?
On a stage show or whatever.
And so by learning how to formally do hypnosis, put someone into a deep trance, make suggestions, get them into those peak states, you can help them live awesome lives. And of course, Mike,
you can do it on yourself too.
You can do it on yourself, but more important, I wanted to bring up the fact that we get a lot of people who come in from different walks of life. Some people are just interested in learning this because they're the local cable guy for Rogers TV, and
they're
just curious.
Yeah,
that was a real
Andrew.
example. Yeah, Andrew. And then you've got dentists and doctors and pain management specialists and psychologists,
social workers, police, salespeople. All of these people have come and studied with us in Toronto.
The metaphor I like to use is to put these tools in your toolbox. They're not the only tools you will ever use, but you will always be using them.
Oh my! Will they ever be powerful?
They will come out very often. So
is that slide correct now, Chris?
It should be correct. Yep,
okay,
it's correct. So now we have to move on to, before we take Q&A, I want to talk to you about, or Mike's going to talk to you actually here about how a little bit more about hypnosis, how it's an interconnected system. So just like you have lots of different tools that make up the hypnotic toolbox, and those tools go into your general toolbox of all kinds of skills that you have in the form of communication, hypnosis is essentially made up of all these different things, a few of which I put on the slide. So we've got hypnotic induction,
which is classical hypnosis,
right?
And some super fast in seconds,
right? We've got metaphors, which are essentially
telling
stories.
A story and changing people's lives. You sit across from someone and you say, "Oh, that reminds me of this story I heard." And the person goes into a trance as you tell the story.
And they get lost in the content.
And get lost in the content. And you can absolutely transform people sitting in a bar talking to them. I know because I've done it many times.
And while you're telling the story, you might use an embedded command.
An embedded command is concealed in the regular conversation, in seemingly regular sounding sentences and phrases, but they are commands that get right into the unconscious mind and change people and make them want what you have.
Right, exactly. There was a perfect demonstration. So then we have something called the Milton model. And so for those who haven't heard about it, Milton H. Erickson, very famous, unfortunately deceased now, hypnotist, hypnotherapist, doctor, medical doctor,
psychiatrist.
And of course, by modeling him, people have come up with Ericksonian hypnosis. So talk about the Milton model.
Well, the Milton model is a way of using language. There's two sides to the coin. The meta model is determined by John Grinder and Richard Bandler, is using language to clarify language. So if someone said, "He always does that to make me mad," you say, "How specifically?" So you're clarifying language. So the Milton model is the opposite side of the coin. It's using language to obfuscate, confuse, and create trance.
And it forces people to go inside. They form a visual, auditory, kinesthetic representation in their mind.
Which is a trance.
Right. So the Milton model, and this, by the way, we're going to speak about conversational hypnosis in a second. This is what you can use to help somebody else in a
positive way, an absolute transformation. In 2-3 sentences. I was in Cornwall, Ontario, spoke to the Chamber of Commerce. A woman afterwards wanted to talk to me. She was going through problems with her daughter. She called her the Paris Hilton of Cornwall. This girl who got messed up with some bad people and some cocaine use and all these things. And I just told the woman a story called The Story of the Leanna Vine that John Grinder told me. And it took me 1 minute to tell her this story, or 90 seconds. The woman went into hypnotic trance in Don Cherry's bar talking to me and went, "Wow, that's some story. Sounds like someone's life." I said, "That's right." They called me a couple of weeks later. This woman her life had absolutely transformed. Her relationship with her daughter had changed. She got the hypnotic message of the metaphor. It goes into the unconscious and works without you knowing it's even doing it.
Right. So now let's just close off the topic of how you can generate a lot of hypnotic skill. One of the things that Mike essentially teaches a hybrid approach to hypnosis. All of the best from the direct method of hypnosis, which is very authoritative, and you are going to close your eyes. That's right. Stuff that you use on stage, but you also have probably, I don't know anybody who's better than you at this, the best mix of Ericksonian hypnosis, which is very permissive. So we use something called a never-ending sentence. So maybe you could just demonstrate quickly
what it is. A never-ending
works.
Sentence is a way of using language that takes people down through levels of trance And as they follow what you're saying, their brain is forced to attempt to attach meaning to it. And by doing so, all of the resources that are in their unconscious become accessible. And as you get drawn down into the unconscious levels without recognizing the fact that your own imagination begins to cooperate with what the hypnotist is saying to you, you begin to formulate reasons and make changes, I mean real changes, that can not only intensify all the transitions that are going on within, but can then take you to a totally different place that enables you to drift into it further. Now, the second important thing about hypnosis is as soon as you start talking about it, it starts happening, always. And the third important thing always freaks people out. It's a question. The third important thing is you totally forget the first important thing now.
That's right.
That's right. Really easily. And you've got about a 20-second gap if you were paying attention where you can't remember what I was saying because I'm speaking to you hypnotically and stimulating Broca's area by doing it.
And this is not difficult to learn, folks. In fact, it's quite simple to learn. So why don't we take it away and move a little bit into the next stage of the presentation, because learning hypnosis is super, super important. I'm just going to do a slide share again with you here. There's so much. The key here that I wanted to mention is there's just so much you can learn and start using this stuff to improve your life, improve the lives of the people around you. Where's my slideshow? There it is, slideshow again. So I want to walk you through what we are doing beyond just these free webinars. We do a lot of training. We do live training, and we took the live training, which were, of course, the live trainings fill up very quickly and the waiting list is very long. So I convinced Mike almost 2 years ago now to create what we call the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy and do the training online. So
and I mean, they really do sell out. Our November course sold out 3 months in advance.
Yeah,
and it's insane.
The May one's going to be sold out as soon as I announce it. Anyway, I want to just jump in and explain to you what we have, which is the best hypnosis training in the world that's done online. Obviously, next best to coming live into Toronto. It is quite an impressive set of training with 32 video lessons, audio Q&A content with every single lesson. So it's accessible via PC, via mobile phone or tablet, or you can download the content. You get to interact with us in our community because we host monthly webinars just like this, which are not us teaching, it's just Q&A. You get to come in, ask questions, or listen to the questions other people ask, and they get answered.
And they're stored online, and so they're all accessible.
Yeah, that's the point down here is every single webinar, of which there are now, I don't know, 18 or so of them, they're all archived. Plus, we give away all kinds of bonus content. Essentially, every product that is sold at MikeMandelHypnosis.com is given to you in the members area for no extra charge. We've got tons of hypnosis demos, great community. We keep adding material. Huge satisfaction guarantee, because if you're not happy, you can just ask for your money back. No questions asked.
And you don't have to buy a box of DVDs and have them sit on your shelf and then have to ship them back to somebody because you don't like it.
Right, exactly. So now what I'm going to do here, before we jump to Q&A, I am going to show you what it looks like. So I have to just change the screen share that I'm doing to the membership portal. So here is our membership portal. I'm just going to guide. Let me see if I can get to that now. Okay, so here's our members area. This is the back end where I post material. So I'm going to show you the preview of the portal. This will show you what it actually looks like. So for somebody who is in the academy, I'm going to change the preview to a full member. If my mouse would work, that would be nice. All right, so something's a bit I think the page has not loaded for me fully for some reason, but you can see we've got all these different modules of content here, and they're all video lessons. Yeah, that's not going to load for me. Okay, here we go. Yeah, my bandwidth is a little bit slow, I think, because we're broadcasting. But let's just say, for example, you were to click on lesson 2. So you can see in lesson 2, all these videos are here, just all kinds of education.
Chunks.
It's all, yeah, these videos are not like an hour long each. They're kind of in the 5 to 10 minute range. So you can watch them in their entirety and remember where you were and come back, watch it on your smartphone, watch it on your iPad, watch it on your Mac or your PC, or download it and watch it when you're on a plane trip somewhere. So it's just exceptional content. The videos are all HD, excellent quality. And you can see there's just tons of comments in the—
It took us 364 days to build the academy. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so next thing, let me just go back to the camera and then I can show you guys what we have for you. So in addition to the free video series that I mentioned earlier, let me get back to, This is quite a difficult thing to do here.
No, you're doing good.
There we go.
All right.
Trying. I was doing great.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, back to us.
We're back.
So I'll skip the slides because we don't need the slides for this. I can review my notes. So what we have for you, we want to make sure that you have a chance to join. And you'll see below the video, you'll see a button where you can join the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy today. And we launched it in June of last year, and we didn't have all the content done at the time. I'll stop looking at the monitor and I'll look at you folks. We did not have all the content done. So when we launched it as a monthly program, drip feed content. So you would sign up today, you'd get lesson 1, and then every 2 weeks you'd get another lesson. So lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4. And we just simply stayed ahead of the curve because the people who joined in June of 2013, we just made sure that we constantly published the next lesson. Now we're done, and not done, we're still going to be adding material, but we have 32 lessons in there, which would essentially equate to 15 months worth of drip-fed content if you went on the drip feed schedule. But because we've come to the point where there's so much material in some of the later lessons that we didn't want you to have to wait 15 months to have access to it, we have launched what we call the All Access Pass. So for $897, people can sign up today. You can click on the button there and sign up and get access to lifetime access to the Mike Mandel.
Hundreds of videos.
Exactly.
All the auditory components,
right?
The review that comes with it, the cheat sheets, everything, and all the products, the $400 worth of products.
Right, and of course, satisfaction guarantee. Within 30 days, you can test drive the whole thing. You can access everything, and if you don't find that it's for you, just let us know, and we'll refund every single penny. So we want to make sure you know about that. You can still join the monthly version, which is $47 a month, and you basically pay every single month, cancel whenever you want. We always say we're like Netflix. It's easy to cancel. You just click a button, tell us that you don't want to do it anymore, as opposed to the cable company where they route you through to the retentions department and they make it horrendous for you to try to shut down.
But we think you're going to want to stay. I mean, if you look at some of the
history is
online,
people stay a long time.
We got people online. We have medical doctors in Australia, and anesthesiologists. We have doctors all through the U.S. and Britain. We just got a great thing of approval from a Harley Street psychiatrist in Britain. He said every lesson is like finding a diamond mine.
In fact, that's what I'm going to show you.
This is a psychiatrist who uses hypnosis in his practice constantly. But it's exactly the same if you're a brand new student, if you've never done anything with hypnosis, just like in our live classes, this will take you from where you are. It'll get you to the next level.
We want you to have this stuff in your toolbox. So a couple of points on this. We are going to do, because we have hundreds of people on this webinar, we expect quite a lot of new students to be joining. So we're going to do, in addition to our usual monthly Q&A for everyone, we're going to do an extra special, what I'm calling an onboarding webinar, where we're going to just answer questions, not going to sell you anything, just answer questions for the new members. So we will do that sometime in the next month to give people some warm-up period. That's an extra bonus that we're doing. We are probably going to have to close the doors to the academy
just
for
to make sure
while.
We can manage the numbers, because it's me and Chris.
Right. So for those of you who sign up before October 30th, midnight our time, you'll get that special onboarding webinar, and we will not close the doors for you if you get in before then. The price will, I want to make sure this is clear, the price will never be cheaper than it is today. Right now at $897 all in, nobody does that. People ship you obsolete boxes of DVDs where there is no forum, there are no ongoing webinars, there is no $400 of bonus content available, and they charge you tons of money, and then they just wash their hands of you and ship you their box of DVDs, and you have to
realize a lot of these DVD courses, they're filming live trainings. So what we put online here is designed specifically for the web, for the information generation, produced just for you for rapid learning. It's not a repackaging of something else.
Right. So with that said, I want you to take action. I would love for you to join us. Mike and I would both love for you to be in the academy with us. We spend time in there every single day, commenting, answering questions, and we're here on a webinar every single month doing Q&A for you, answering your questions. So with that
said,
say
too, Chris, all of you listening, if you use iTunes, or you can go to our website, MikeMandelHypnosis.com, or go to iTunes and type in Brain Software. We have 52 right now 5-star rated podcasts.
And they're all free.
All audio podcasts on iTunes are all free, and you're welcome to check them out. And I recommend you start at about number 5 or 6. That's when we really found our
group. Start at the beginning. They're only half an hour each, but that's the free stuff, and we absolutely encourage you to go and get it all, because it's all awesome. But if you really are ready to take your skills to the next level, and this is the best teacher in the world, I have learned so much from this man here, I encourage you to join the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. With that said, the button is there. You can join. I want to spend some time on Q&A. We probably left ourselves not as much time as we planned, but let's go a little over.
Let's go to it anyway.
Let's do it anyway. So in the chat room right now, go ahead and type your questions, and we are going to, I guess we're going to have to wait a minute for you guys to catch up because there is that lag.
There is that lag.
You're getting a broadcast about 60 seconds or so behind our transmission. So
do you want to be on the camera here?
Yes, let's go back to, in fact, while we're waiting, let's just show a couple of nice testimonials. So here's Dr. Gary in California. He says, an intense, highly entertaining educational experience packed with strategies and skills, useful professionals in practically any discipline. It forever changed the way I interact with people. Highly recommended, and that's Gary. That's awesome. He's an anesthesiologist. This is the one you were referring to earlier, Dr. Robert, and then I left his last name out because, well, we don't.
All these are on
file. We only ever do that if we get
emails
permission.
Are on file. Yeah.
We only put people's names in there in full if they give us permission. Every lesson is like going into a diamond mine. And right before I get some questions, here we are. Are they starting to come in? Yes. The best money I've ever spent on hypnosis training. Keep up the amazing work from Richard White, a hypnotist in Florida, United States. So let's hit a couple of questions. So somebody asked earlier, oh, what are tacit contracts? It was on the slide, but we never got to it. What is a tacit contract?
Tacit just means unspoken. And we can use tacit contracts by getting people to agree to things without actually realizing they've done it. So I'll say to someone in a course or in a hypnosis session, and when you're ready to go into a deep trance, you can take it. So the person has agreed that by taking a deep breath, they're going to go into hypnosis. So as soon as I see them take that deep breath, they have accepted the contract, and I say, that's right. And they'll go into trance right away. It's connecting things, getting them to unconsciously agree with things that they may not have realized they've even agreed to.
All right. I love this comment here from David. He says, knock it off, Mike. You and your trance making during the, I assume that was during the never ending sentence demonstration part of it, because it's easy sometimes to just slip into that hypnotic voice.
That's right.
To help people to make the necessary changes for them to install the tools that they want to make their lives better. Right. Okay. So there we go. Lots of fun. Even Mike's shirt is hypnotic.
My wife picked this one for me. I didn't know if it was going to work.
I don't see a button, just video and a chat below it. On YouTube, you see the video. And oh yeah, Elliot, if you're in YouTube and if you're not actually on the video template page that we're using, the MMHA-webinar page, if you're in YouTube, you won't see the button. So you can go there and look at it.
Nice to hear from Master Hypnotist Elliot. He'll be coming to the Architecture of Hypnosis in about 10 days.
Yeah, awesome
and
guy.
Acting as a resource person.
We had a nice lunch last week too. In Uxbridge, Ontario. Also, so if you don't see the button for whatever reason, go to Mike Mandel. I'll put the link in the chat room. MikeMandelHypnosis.com/academy, and what'll happen there is you'll be able to click through to the add to cart button or whatever the text says. So let me just type that in. HTTP. Here's my typing. There we go. Typo check. Good. I make so many typos. It's horrible.
How does that belief serve you?
That's a good question.
You really don't want your making mistakes state in the executive when you're doing something like that.
That's right. I tend to sometimes miss things. That's okay. My adult son has night terrors. Can hypnosis help? Question from Jackie.
Absolutely. Without a doubt. One of the ways I would work with this with a kid is I would regress them to the very first moment.
This is an adult son in this case.
Yeah. The very first time they had them. And you might get the content of the dream and change it all. Night terrors typically have a feeling of suffocation tied to them as well. And it can be undone with hypnosis. You can also add things like things that we do teach in the academy, and you'll have some amazing skill sets to fix that. That's not a difficult one at all.
Right. So some of the simplest ways of going after that don't involve any kind of complex tools.
And one of the things with night terror that we need to say is a lot of the time it's tied into that sensation of not being able to move, which is terrifying. And it's because your brain, the pontine tegmentum, has shut down the motor neurons, so you don't thrash around in your sleep and hit the person next to you thinking they're a Tyrannosaurus Rex or something. So I'm looking at myself pretty much sharp. Night terrors are often tied to that, but it can all be dealt with.
Right. Okay. And then this is a really good question from Brad. Curious, what are the requirements for becoming a hypnotherapist? So
why don't you feel that one, Chris? I can see you're champing at the bit.
I'm gonna talk about this because this is quite a complex question, but the simplest answer is in most parts of the world, hypnosis is not a regulated industry. So anyone with any level of training. You could be a kid who read a book and stuck needles in his friend's hand and call himself a hypnotist. Or you can go through hundreds of hours of training at the schools that call themselves the best schools, and they charge you tons and tons of money in tuition, and they'll give you a certificate, and it'll come from an organization that they may own, and you're now a qualified hypnotherapist, even though maybe all they've taught you to do is read
a script at
people.
somebody. Yeah.
Your eyes are getting heavy.
No, they're not.
You can feel yourself relaxing.
No, I can't.
You know what? You can do that for 1,000 hours. I don't care. It won't make you a great hypnotist. So the simplest answer is, in most parts of the world, you can call yourself a hypnotist with any degree of training. We recommend you actually get good training like we provide in order to do that. Calling yourself a hypnotherapist is sometimes shaky ground.
Sometimes legislative.
We wouldn't recommend doing it unless there is some certainty on your part that you can do it without getting yourself in hot water with some regulatory body.
And remember, though,
you don't need to call yourself one.
Right. It's extremely difficult to determine that someone is a hypnotist if they're just having a conversation with you.
Right.
Because they could be causing all sorts of things to go.
So we suggest you add this to your toolbox, whether you want to call yourself a hypnotist, whether you just want to be a better communicator,
whether you're a personal
want to
coach,
use it
whatever.
alongside what you're already doing. You spoke about the 3 things the empowering questions must consist of. What were they? So they must be target state oriented.
Yep, stated in the positive.
They must be stated in the positive, and they must
have the presuppositions.
I was just going to say presuppositions like, how can I get smarter while enjoying myself tremendously today?
Yes, perfect. And it's a how
Something
question,
like
so
that.
It's process again.
Okay, and can I confirm it's Marianne says, I can confirm it's an awesome course, and I've been a hypnotherapist for nearly 10 years. Thank you so much for making that comment.
Nice.
We have quite a few people, by the way, in the chat room who are past live students or online students. I think I said that. Past live students, not life.
Past live students.
So past students from our live classroom training. Future, in the case of Ryan here, he's coming up from Washington, I think. We'll see you shortly, man. And what is the difference between self-hypnosis and meditation? This is the all fish or trout question.
We're back to fish and trout. All trout are fish, but not all fish are trout. Chris, your knee keeps touching me.
Thank you.
So it's back to that. All meditation is going to create a trance state, but not all hypnosis is meditation.
Right.
So it's either or. It's sort of both ends.
Absolutely. Okay, let me just continue scrolling through here. Next questions. How do you help a person determine the necessary changes they need to make? Asked by Kyle. How do you get them unstuck? Oh, this is all about, there's so much here. Reframing.
One of the things I used to use to unstick people was pattern interrupts. I'd get them to exhibit the problematic state and then screw it up so they couldn't get back in.
Right.
And the one I often did was smelling underneath my watch. I carried so much depression.
I think there's a video on YouTube of you
so
explaining
the person,
that.
I get all depressed. And the bad state, the depressed state gets into the executive, and I screw it up so it can't get there. So every time it comes in, I would go like that. And the woman said, "What did you just do?" Nothing. And finally, the pattern interrupt made it so every time she'd attempt to get that state in the executive, she'd get yanked back out again. So pattern interrupts are a great way of screwing up bad states.
Harry writes, I'm also in the online academy now, and it's awesome.
Excellent.
Thanks, Harry. That's really great to hear. This is Mike Kingsley, and I really enjoy your webinar, even having to get up at 4:50 a.m. in Australia.
Kingsley. No, this is Kingsley, Mike.
Oh, it's Sand. It's
Sandy?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Very good friend of mine, dear friend in Australia. I haven't seen him in 10 years, but you either, Sandy. Hope you're doing well.
Another guy, Brad, with a question. I have a friend with a brain trauma seems to be stuck in the original, in the state of the original trauma. Can hypnosis be safely applied to assist in this, in spite of the brain damage?
Yes, but
we say maybe.
Generally speaking, you can apply it safely. You're always going to apply it.
You
safely.
can't make them worse.
You may not get a result though. So hypnosis can always be applied, but in certain situations, you're going to have to check with the doctor first. And I have never had a doctor refuse the use of hypnosis with anyone ever.
All right. Next question was Atkinson. NLP versus hypnosis, question mark. So I assume what you really mean. Now, this is a good example. In NLP, you're usually, this is an example of deletion. There is missing information here. We don't actually know what your question is, right?
That's right.
So NLP versus hypnosis. I'm going to read your mind poorly, or correctly.
Let's make it real simple.
What's the difference?
Neurolinguistic programming came out of three different things. The work of Fritz Perls, the Gestalt therapist, which is one circle. And then we had the second circle overlapping, which is Virginia Satir and her family therapy. And then when Bandler and Grinder were modeling these amazing therapists who got great results, then they went and saw Milton Erickson, the hypnotherapist, and that third circle overlapped. And the three were radically different. And because they were so, I've got the chalk, radically different, the area that the three circles overlapped was easy to see. And that became neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP. So hypnosis is one of the components that led into NLP in the first place.
Now you're
almost all NLP has built-in hypnosis anyway. If you're doing a classical 6-step reframe or whatever, and I'm an NLP trainer, if you're doing one of those techniques, you're going to put someone into trance anyway. Trance happens all the time.
So by that, you might mean, let's say someone says to you, well, I'm afraid to get up on stage and speak to that crowd that I have to present to. And you might say, well, if you were already up there, this is the as-if frame, which we never got to in this presentation.
Another time, yeah.
If you were a perfect presenter and you were presenter,
by the way, now,
how would you be standing, and how would you feel, and what would you see?
Already congruent, if you
what would you see, and what would you hear?
Yeah.
Well, they're going inside now, and they're essentially accessing a trance state to imagine what it would be like as if they were up there performing flawlessly.
And then you get to step into it. And that's NLP.
So if you do that inside of a formal trance, you can do this. This is why you can do this stuff covertly. You can just ask your friends these questions. Well, you know, I'm really nervous about this thing. Oh, really? Well, what specifically is it that makes you nervous? What are your words going to go wrong? And then you start moving into the empowering questions and asking them these questions that are a little bit funny at first, but then they start doing it, and all of a sudden,
but then they change.
They feel better.
They change. They feel better. I mean, you do so much stuff covertly. If somebody's in a bad state, I will often do spatial anchoring, which is beyond the scope of this webinar, but it's in the course. Things like this. Well, I'm mad at it, and I'd say, let's just take that for a second, that anger, and just put it over here for a minute. Or I'm moving that state out of the executive and say, now just take a deep breath with me. And you mirror it with them, they breathe with you, and they can't get back into that state because you've taken it out of the executive, and a different one, an empowered state's come in through the breathing.
Right, and you just never get back to
go back to
yeah, you leave it there.
Get it out.
I love how Brian said, yeah, the bonus content in the Academy is kick-ass. And
maybe I'll mention what it is.
Well, so it's every single product that we sell online. So
peak performance,
memory power, stress relief, a
the
good
navigator
night's sleep,
system, good night's sleep, the
power inductions,
power
DVD,
inductions, which is 5 killer inductions.
Pain management, we already said. The navigator.
The public speaking one.
The stage fright and performance anxiety. Every single thing.
There. You can apply it for so many things. The peak performance one alone is stuff I learned from John Grinder when I was studying to become an NLP trainer, which took me 2 years of study after being a master practitioner. I studied with Derek Baumer, and there's stuff in there, in that CD, which of course is downloading $4,000 to learn. And, and this is just one of the products you get free with this course.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not kidding. When I say that we're offering amazing value, I'm not kidding. There was just another well-marketed hypnotist just in the last week who essentially offered a box of DVDs and some other stuff, some other bonus stuff, all just DVD video, $800, I think it was. There's no ongoing webinars. There's no collection of products. There's no online interaction with us, and just none of this.
Yeah, we don't need to learn on your own. We want you involved in our community, our hypnotic storm riders. There's a hypnotic storm raging worldwide for dominance because we've got too many poor teachers and bad techniques and lousy script reading and all of these things. We know there's a hypnotic storm raging because we caused it.
Yeah, Joni's
come and join the storm riders.
Joni's online here. I appreciate the quality of your products and the care that you take. The online academy is great. Thanks, Joni. I don't want to just plug us all here. Let me see more questions.
Sure.
I use the Good Night Sleep almost nightly, and it works. From Chris. The Milton model would be to utilize trance. I think you could use meta model to say, how specifically does he make you mad? Oh, I think that's Ryan answering someone else's question in the chat room here. Peter, I started using the navigator system. How many times does it have to be installed to work? One time.
One time.
What you have to do is use it.
Yeah, use it consistently. The navigator system transformed my freaking life. It absolutely did. And this man will tell you, I've got an awesome life. I really do. If I work 4 hours a week, that's too much. And I do what I want, and I learn what I want, and the navigator system was largely part of that. It builds in an internal GPS and map that enables you to switch the direction of your life in 5-second increments through the day, and the effects are cumulative over time. It's amazing, and that's free with the online academy as well.
Shelly wants to know if you'll be teaching a stage hypnosis course, and the interesting answer to that one is we've been talking about it because Michael C. Anthony, and Mike Mandel are, I mean, two of the best guys in the world to be able to teach this material. And we're thinking of putting together maybe.
He's actually approached me on this, so this may very well happen at some point.
Okay, let me see what else we got here. Can you? Oh, thank you. Great question. Can you use confusion? Not confusion. That's confusing. What is confusion? Can you use confusion to put someone in a trance?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, Milton Erickson said
Demonstrate something.
that confusion is part of almost all of his inductions. So what I'll say to someone, we millions of ways of going about this in the course, and people learn it very quickly.
Well, you did it as part of the demo. You left everyone with a confusion.
By using the confusion to take away step number one, the first thing.
What was step number one?
You were right. You remember the second one is hypnosis happens when
it's
you talk
confusing,
about it.
isn't
The
it?
third one is, I can't remember. Yeah. And it's if someone says, well, what are you feeling right now? Which is part of my triple bind induction. Well, I feel like a sense of confusion. So I'll offer it back. That's right. And I'll say, and where else do you feel confused now? What? Confusion creates an unstable state, and you can then seize control of it and create a trance. Chris, we have time for only one more because I'm going to get back into Toronto.
I know, I'm listening. And
let's get one more good question and close.
David Foster says the bonus content is worth tuition alone.
Thank you, David.
I totally agree. I mean, obviously you can buy the bonus content for less than the tuition, but the tuition is totally reasonable given the amazing content.
Remember, guys, this is no risk to you. Absolutely no risk.
Is the bonus material every? I listen to the bonus material every night. This stuff is unbelievable. Thanks. That's from Rick. What is a good night's sleep? It's a product to help you learn how to sleep better, get a better quality sleep. But you can also use it if you're a therapist and you want to help your clients. So it'll educate you on better sleeping. And it's got, I think, 2 different hypnosis tracks. One to help you fall asleep. One to help you return to sleep.
Right. One if you're trouble. There's 2 primary forms of insomnia. The first one is the most common, where people go to bed and they toss and turn for about an hour or more, which is horrible, and then eventually fall asleep. The second time is actually more insidious, though, even though it's rarer. People wake up at 3 a.m., are wide awake. I know they're wide awake.
And then they have a hard time.
And lie awake for hours and fall asleep just before it's time for the alarm to go off, and then are exhausted the next day.
And that's why
learning both of those.
Self-hypnosis is a fantastic technique to learn. Put yourself in the trance as a segue to return to sleep, and it works very well.
Right.
Farage wants to know if the online course covers street hypnosis, and the answer is yes, because I believe it's lesson 5 or lesson 6. It's called a crash course or an impromptu. It's in the, you know what? Go to the sales page, MikeMandelHypnosis.com/academy, and which I put the link in the chat room. You'd be able to download the entire course syllabus. It's
like everything that's in it.
It's like a 32-page PDF. My wife actually helped put it together because there was just so much content. I had so much to do. Something like 32 pages breaking down everything that's in there. And I think it's lesson 5 or 6 is a mini course in impromptu hypnosis, which you could use for stage, parties, or on the street.
Any place you want.
And
I've done it.
The principles are all the same, because you can go up to somebody, you can build a rapport with them.
Exactly the same. You can build rapport quickly. You can trance them out.
Would you like to experience something interesting? Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, you're a hypnotist. Okay, yeah, let me show you something. Then you start building what we call hetero action. Gabriello is actually in here. And
nice.
And he said, you guys are rock stars. Thank you very much.
Gabriello is a freaking rock star. He's an amazing hypnotist. He's an amazing
hypnotist.
Street hypnotist, too. And Gabriello and I and Didi Vergados and Hank Stone, a bass player out of England from the band Zodiac and Black, the 4 of us went to Dundas Square in Toronto, which is Toronto's sort of Times Square, beautiful place, and just tranced people out on the street and had an absolute blast with it.
Bob wants you to end with a squatter story, but you'll have to wait for you'll have to wait for podcast 53, maybe 53, I think.
Please remember, guys, check out iTunes, check out Brain Software on iTunes. Free stuff,
right?
Life-changing stuff, and you're welcome to it.
Chris is pointing out. I know.
Have to wrap it up.
Of course you are. Yes.
Yeah.
Chris is saying.
This guy gave me 5 cups of coffee before we started, and they're all struggling to get out.
Chris wants to remind us that there's also a full lesson on stage hypnosis, which is true.
Oh, thank you, Chris.
You put in a full lesson on how you construct your shows, how you build hetero action, how you do suggestion, how you do group individuals,
and how to keep it all safe.
Yeah.
We're really big on ecology. We're really big on keeping the client/patient safe, and that's our #1 thing. It's got to be safe for everybody.
David asked how long the Academy is going to stay open. We will leave it open until October 30th at midnight. Then we're likely, and likely meaning 99%, going to shut it down for an undetermined period of time, just while we absorb all the new students.
Because we have to interact with everybody, make sure it's working for everyone, and which it is, but I mean all the the chat rooms and all their questions online.
Lots of people
always
saying,
online checking it.
Tim and Joe and Son and Kevin saying thanks for doing this. So do more of it. Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to do more of these as well.
Right.
Okay, so we are going to end it here. I'm just going to get my finger on the stop broadcast button. Well, I guess
Did you have anything you did?
I do. Well, yeah, okay, sure. Since I built them, why not?
I just thought, you know, you don't want to waste them.
Yeah, I don't want to waste them, do I? So let's just a little more shameless advertising here. Is
that's
that
right.
Says I've already used this, and I've already used many aspects of the course in my practice, and have had exciting results.
That's Paul, MD, British
medical
Columbia.
doctor out of. Yeah, I think he's on Vancouver Island, actually.
Yes.
Having a blast, impressed with the professional and the detail in which you guys present the material. It's from Patrick, who's a hypnotist in Ohio. Recently had his first baby, too. Patrick, awesome. And then we have Brilliantly Hysterical, which made learning very easy from the bottom of my heart. Thank you both. From Dave in Toronto. So let's just go back really quick to our camera so we can officially say goodbye to everybody, because we're going to go offline. So thanks.
Appreciate you sticking around.
Practically 2 hours of broadcast time, if you include all our warm-up and all that. This will be available for replay, assuming that the recording worked, which I hope.
Which we know it did.
So catch it again. Join the Academy. You guys are going to love it. I mean, if you have any questions, just email me. I've even put a live chat widget on the website. So if I'm online or have my phone with me or whatever, I'm often there and I'm able to answer your questions. So you can email me, info@mikemandelhypnosis.com, or you can do a live chat with me or whatever it is. I'd be happy to answer your questions. If you have any, you're going to love the Academy. Join it. All right.
Thanks again.
And good night.